But what everybody's here to see, this will be the intro to the video. This is what everybody cares about, really. Tear, we're on ounces right now. Let me make sure you guys can see that. So the steel frame is 11.1 ounces, so it's basically an 11 ounce frame. If we move over to the aluminum frame, which I'm telling you feels like nothing, it is 4 ounces. So there you go, there's the difference right there. 11 ounces for steel, 4 for aluminum. And I can tell you, it's a noticeable difference in your hand. My dudes, we are back with another video. The KE Arms Hudson H9 aluminum receiver came in the mail today, and we're gonna go ahead and put it in the gun. I can tell you, this thing is crazy, crazy light. So let's bring in, you don't wanna see me, you wanna see this. Let's bring in and get this done. This is really quick, really easy. Follow the instructions, you won't have any trouble. All right, let's do this. It should be really straightforward. If you follow my directions, you'll have this done in no time and it'll be really simple. Remember, follow the direction that I'm sending you. There's a certain way to do everything, otherwise you can break stuff, so do what I'm doing. Some things will make it easier. If you have a bench block, we'll make it nice. One of these cheap little screwdriver sets will come in really handy. Hammer, a punch, 2 punches. I have one for a certain pin and another one for tapping other parts out, and the Allen key, proper size Allen key for the grip screws. Offhand, I don't know what it is, so shoot me for that one. So let's go ahead and start by taking the gun down. Drop your magazine, make sure you're clear, pull the trigger. You actually didn't need to do that yet. Pop your pin out and across, drop your slide, now pull your trigger. Tap it, and come on, should come right off. Your upper is done here. We don't need it for anything else, so put it aside. Working on this, we're gonna pretty much work our way from the back to the front. And when we get the chassis out, I'll show you some of the cool intricacies of the chassis system. But for now, what we're gonna do is remove the grip screws first, and the grips. One. Ow. Come on. Here we go. And 2. Grips off. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the spring tension off the whole mechanism. To do that, we're going to remove the pin that's right down here. There's a pin at the base. We're going to knock that pin out real quick. And if you've ever taken a 1911 apart, you know this whole area is held under some really strong spring tension. This one isn't. There's no spring within this back section, so it's fairly easy to just knock out. Let me set it up correctly. It might tap, line it up over the hole. There we go. And it'll pretty much just, once you get it moving, it'll pretty much just push it up. Like that. Set that aside. Once this pin is out, your back strap will come off, slides out the bottom. The beaver tail does the same thing, it'll slide right out the bottom. Your mainspring, give it a little tap, your mainspring will come out, and I'll show you how to put that back in, don't worry. So once you get all that out, what you're going to end up having to do is remove the thumb safety plug. So this would have been, if they produced it, a thumb safety like on a 1911. I don't know if they ever actually made any. If anybody out there is aware of any of these existing, the actual safety mechanism, let me know. I'll totally buy one. I think it'd be kind of cool to have it with the gun, even if it never gets used. But what we have to do here, this little piece here has to get rotated up. So right now you can see it's flush across the top where the slide goes. Have to rotate that up and put this underneath it. It might make it a little easier. Rotate it up and it'll come right out. The best way I've found to do this is to take a really sharp little screwdriver bit from that cheap screwdriver set and just kind of poke it in the top and click like that, and it'll push it up out of the way. Once it's up like that, just go underneath it and pop it out, and it'll want to pop free. So give it a little pry like that, and you'll see it pops right out, and out it comes. Now, something to watch for, and a reason why you need to do this correctly. Let me bring this in. Hold on. Okay. You see that little tab right there? That little, hold on, make sure I'm in focus. There we go. That little L-shaped tab thing, that's the locking tab that holds this in. If you just go prying on this piece, you're going to break it. And as of right now, as of February 2020, you can still buy this. I don't think that's gonna be around forever. Once they're gone, I hear they're gonna be gone forever. So be careful with these parts. Once you get that out, the other half of the plunger mechanism here, of the safety mechanism, will fall pretty much out. Take a little bit of pressure off of it by pressing down on the reset sear part, and you'll see it'll fall right out the backside. Take that again, put it aside. From here, we're going to take out the front section. This is the takedown. This is actually pretty simple. Again, best way I found to do this, if you have a punch that's a pretty good size, this just so happens to be, my punch that I made, just so happens to be the perfect size. Take it and pop it. It's just being held by a spring. So brass punch, pop it, take your punch out, and you'll see it's come most of the way out. Give it a little twist, and it'll come the rest of the way. For anybody curious, this spring right here, you should see the shiny spring up in there. That's actually all that's holding that in and holding it rotating. So they use this for actually a couple different parts. It's also the other end of this spring for the slide release, but we'll show that in a minute. Once that's done, the whole chassis will lift out from the front. Take your chassis, pull up on the front locking tabs, and it'll lift up on the front, pull forward, and out your chassis comes. This is your gun. This is your whole quote-unquote firearm right here. That's got your serialized part. From there, your spring will come out, pull up and forward, spring comes out. Last couple pieces, the trigger has to come out, pull up on the trigger bow, and your trigger will slide right out the top. And then for your magazine catch, just like in 1911, there's a screw here. You're going to push in on the catch and twist the screw. That'll lock it in place. Pull it out the right side. And there is a little dingus on the side of this catch, so you'll have to kind of rotate that dingus out so it will clear, and then it'll pull right out, and it'll come just like that. This is now done. This frame is now ready to go as a safekeeper. I'll probably just leave it in the safe for now. But what everybody's here to see, this will be the intro to the video. This is what everybody cares about, really. Tear, we're on ounces right now. Let me make sure you guys can see that. So the steel frame is 11.1 ounces, so it's basically an 11-ounce frame. If we move over to the aluminum frame, which I'm telling you feels like nothing, it is 4 ounces. So there you go, there's the difference right there. 11 ounces for steel, 4 for aluminum. And I can tell you, it's a noticeable difference in your hand. All right, so before we go building the frame back up, I kind of wanted to show you guys some of the intricacies of this chassis system that they have built. So let me bring you in close, wrong direction. There we go. I'm trying to do this by hand, which is tough, but there it is. So there's your chassis. You can see where it was made. On this side, this is actually where it was serialized. So this is your quote-unquote firearm. Cool thing about that is this is not a firearm. This is not serialized. This part from KE Arms comes straight to your house, which is really nice. But you can see this is a fairly intricate little piece that they have built. And like I was trying to describe last time, spring right here, there you go. And it's used as well for the mag catch, the slide release rather. Interesting stuff over here. Just like in 1911, let's see, you can see you have the floating disconnector that touches the trigger bar. But unlike in 1911, within this upper mechanism here, so I always think that on a 1911, it translates, it's all kind of very vertical. The hammer is back, you press on this, it allows the sear to move and drop the hammer. On this one, it's a little different because when you press on the trigger, it transfers that motion into a vertical sear. So you can see there, that is your actual sear engagement. And that is what drops out of the way, spring-loaded, drops out of the way when you pull the trigger and lets the striker go home. So really, really intricate piece that they've machined here. Pretty crazy. All right, so with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and build this back up on the aluminum frame. First thing you're gonna need is your magazine catch. You're gonna see here the little dingus that I was talking about right there. So you're gonna need to fit that in. It goes right to left. Fit it in, the dingus will need to kind of rotate in like that. So let me show you that again. So you put it in, rotate it down a little bit so the dingus goes in, and then rotate it back up, and it'll sit flush on both sides. Hold it in place and twist your screw clockwise, and it'll click. That will lock it back into the frame. Ready to go. You can do a check on it. Mag clicks in, mag drops free. Next up, their weird spring mechanism. Their weird trigger mechanism. You can see here that, hold on, I'll bring you in to show you the trigger, which is really weird. Really, really wild thing. So their trigger safety that they came up with is this little bump on the top that when you pull the trigger safety, it goes down and depresses, that allows the trigger to travel backwards. So really, when I say that this gun was well over-engineered, I really mean it. They could have done so much more simple design work on some of this stuff. It does have a over-travel stop. If you do need to adjust that, that's right here on the back. You would have to take it out and adjust it that way. But it is there if you need it like that. So, bring you back down. All right. So the trigger will sit in the top like that. Once you have it in there, you just kind of got to give it a little, let me make sure it's in, like that. Just push down on the back of the trigger bow. It'll kind of sit back down in there. And as you go to put the chassis on, you want that trigger to be forward. Next up, chassis. No, before we do the chassis, always remember, because I've done this a couple times and I keep forgetting to put this in there. Once this is ready for the chassis, make sure your spring goes in. The little wings go up. So up, slide it in, and there's two little cutouts in there that will sit into. With your chassis, there's a couple things you need to make sure of. You need to make sure these parts on the bottom, bring you in again, hold on. Make sure these parts on the bottom are sitting correctly. So you don't want this big end down. That needs to be pushed up, like that. And the little piece, come on, should sit square with the disconnector spot here, where the trigger bow is. All of this is going to have to sit behind the trigger bow. So when you go to put it in, make sure that this is all behind the trigger bow. So that's why I say hold the trigger forward. As you go to put this in, hold on, bring it back down. There we go. This likes to fall out until you get the chassis in. Make sure all that's in. You're gonna go back first. Make sure all those things sit down and check it. See if I can bring this up and show you. Hold, hold, hold. You see down in there, all those parts are sitting. No, you can't quite see. Hold on, let me bring some light in for you. There it is. All those parts in there are sitting behind that trigger bow. That's really important. Once that's in, we will go ahead and lock the front in. To get this past the spring, hold on. To get this past the spring here, there's actually a little cutout right here. I found that if you put that cutout into the spring area, into the spring itself, it'll sit down in there. You can then take it, twist it, and it'll depress the spring and allow this to go in. And it goes, keep twisting, you'll want it to get squared in there, like that, and then it'll click into place, just like that. From there, we are going to put the safety mechanism in. So from this side, there's only one direction the safety can go in. The frame has a little cutout, so it's not completely circular. There's a little cutout in the front, which lines up with a notch on the safety lever. So it'll go in part way, you'll see that. If you press down on the sear, it'll get it out of the way of the safety, and then twist it, and that'll sit in. It should be below flush. It should not be flush or above flush. It should sit just under flush. If it's like that, you know you got it correct. From there, we're gonna take the other part of this and sit it on. Remember, it should sit up like that. What we're gonna have to do, and this is quite easily the hardest part of the whole thing, is now take this, you're gonna need to depress the plunger that's in here and rotate this down. This is probably the hardest part. If you can get that plunger down, and let's see if I can do this on the first try. Like that. Fine if I drop the screwdriver bit, it's not a big deal. So it'll sit in just like that. Once that's in, all you have to do is push down on the top and it'll rotate it into place and click it into the little detent notch. Like that, and you're in place. This is now pretty much locked in. It's not gonna go anywhere. The chassis can't come out now. Next up, we're gonna put our spring in the back. Make sure everything's lined up back here. Make sure the sear and all that is, or the detent, man, I keep saying weird words. The disconnector is in the back like it's supposed to, behind the trigger bow. This will sit down into this little notch, as long as I do it correctly. It'll sit, there's a little lip on it that'll sit into the notch right here. And then the fingers will touch both the floating disconnector and the sear. From there, the beaver tail goes in. Beaver tail has to slide in from the bottom. It's grooved right there. So it slides up from the bottom. And it won't actually put spring pressure on this yet. That's what the grip plug does. So that will go in and you'll feel it catch a little bit because it's putting pressure on that spring as it goes in. Take our pin, knock our pin in. This is a good place to have a brass punch. Put your brass punch on there because it won't mar anything. Pin's in, we're good there. Next up, excuse me, I'm gonna put our grips back on. Probably could use a little bit of Loctite on this because you don't want to torque these down. Remember, you're putting steel into aluminum, so you don't want to torque these down like crazy. So if you are afraid of these coming out, because remember, you can't buy them anymore. Well, you can't buy them from Hudson because they're out of business. So if you're afraid of these coming loose, put a little bit of Loctite on them. Put the other one in. That. And that's pretty much it. You're ready to test, make sure everything works. We can do this again, make sure that fits correctly. Take our upper half upside down is the best way to do this. Like that. What you're gonna need to do the first time is pull the trigger so the sear drops out of the way. That will allow you to push it back, up, click it in, and it goes. Works. Magazine locks it open. Everything looks to be good. So that's pretty much it. And I'll show you the difference here. See one last time what the difference in weight is. So this out of the box without a magazine is about 34 ounces. So this drops it to 27.4 ounces. Big difference. Like that is a massive noticeable difference. The true A version would have had a couple other changes. The steel beaver tail would have been a polymer. instead of steel, which would have dropped a little extra weight. But I can tell you, massive difference in feel of this gun. Much, much lighter. Like 34 to 27 is a pretty big jump. That puts it halfway, almost to a Glock, maybe. Glocks, I think, are about 22 ounces. 27 is a little bit heavier, but it's not quite as heavy as a Beretta or a CZ75, things like that. So it definitely is noticeably lighter, much nicer. So there you guys go. Hope you guys like it. That's how to do a frame change on a Hudson H9. If you like this content, then give me a thumbs up. If you found my channel randomly because you're looking for Hudson content, I have a lot of other gun content. Go ahead and subscribe. I put out videos once a week, every Monday, on things that I find, things that I think are cool gun-wise. I do, if you are a regular subscriber and you want to throw me a buck, I do have a Patreon in the link, the description below. There's a link to it. You don't have to. It'll get you access to my private Discord, though, if you want, if you're interested in that sort of thing, and you can bug me with all sorts of questions. But that's pretty much it. I will catch you guys on the next one.